Welcome to Real Estate with Corinne. I'm Corinne Kern, broker with Bighorn Real Estate in Billings, Montana. And today I have a special guest. I have Nate Schmidt. He is a loan officer with First Tribal Lending. And we're going to go over some frequently asked questions for the Section 184 Indian Home Loan Guarantee Program. So I want to introduce Nate. And Nate, give me a little bit of information about yourself, your company, and then we'll get into the questions.
Okay, yeah. So First Tribal Lending has been around since I believe 2013. We specialize in the HUD 184 program. It's actually all we do. I always tell people if they wanted to do another type of loan, like an FHA or a VA loan, a conventional loan, I would just send them back to their local bank. Last year, just my office, there's three of us that work as a team. We closed, I think it was 120 million in HUD 184 volume. I think it was like 450 loans for tribal members around the country. I've been in banking for about 20 years. I was a commercial banker before doing this, and I started with the HUD 184 team about 12 years ago. First Tribal Lending, we are a division of Mid-America Mortgage, which is a mortgage company based out of Addison, Texas. Fairly large mortgage company. I think we have 500 or 600 employees, globally. The Section 184 loan that we do here, though, we have our own processing staff, our own underwriters, our own closers. So everything's done internally. We don't have to send anything out to HUD or any other lender. We also service our loans. So when we close the loan, the tribal member will make their payment monthly to us and service it. We have a website you can make payments, or you can call in if you need to make a payment, mail in payments, but there's no intent to ever sell that servicing off. I know some people get bounced around from different companies sometimes, but we do service everything here.
That's awesome. I didn't know that. And the reason that I thought this would be a great opportunity for us to do this video is when I'm meeting with buyers, a lot of times the question comes up for anyone who is a tribal member if there are any specific loan programs. And I find that most buyers don't know about this loan program. So I think the kind of first question to start off is to ask, how do we know if someone's eligible, and what are the requirements that you guys look for?
Sure. So to qualify for the HUD 184 loan, one borrower on the loan needs to be a member of a federally recognized tribe. So for example, in your area, Crow member, Northern Cheyenne. They do not need to be a member of a Montana tribe. They can be, from a tribe in New York, for example. The program is open statewide in Montana, so we can do the program on or off tribal land, okay? And then if they have a co-borrower, like a spouse, brother, sister, friend that wants to be on the loan with them, they do not need to be a tribal member. So just one person on the loan has to be. That's the first thing to qualify.
Wonderful. And can you maybe talk a little bit about the process? So let's say I mentioned to someone that they should reach out to you. What's kind of the first step in that process of them getting pre-qualified?
Well, so typically, if someone calls or emails, we send them a basic checklist of things we'd like to get back. So with the loan, like any other mortgage loan, people do have to qualify. We're going to be looking at credit and income and debt and running ratios to make sure that they can qualify for a housing payment. So typically what I will do is I'll send someone an email to complete an online or a paper application. Typically we like to get back 30 days most recent pay stubs. If they're working a standard job, W-2s from their job for the last 2 years, and typically 2 months bank statements. People can upload it to our application system, send it through email, fax it. It doesn't matter how we get it. We don't need originals of anything. Once we get it, what I do is I create a folder on our system and I send it to one of our assistants that will pull credit. Typically, I tell people that we'll usually get back to them within a day or two, business day. It just depends on how busy we are. Certain times of the year, certain days of the week, we'll get a lot of applications, but typically within a day or two, we'll get back to people. I like to say we get back to you good, bad, or indifferent. Sometimes we can't qualify people for various reasons, maybe too much debt or recent, payment history where they've had late payments, collections. We'll try to give people, kind of a checklist, punch list of things to work on and a rough time frame of when they can come back, maybe 6 to 12 months later. If everything looks good, we will put together a letter showing how much people qualify for maximum, if that makes sense. We'll tell them their max. We'll give them a checklist of things that we would need back once they find a house and make an offer on it so we can start an actual loan. And then from there, we kind of leave it back to people. And I try not to bug people, because I know sometimes, it might take 6 months to find the right house, but we usually just tell people once they're pre-qualified, it should be good for quite a while, maybe, 60 to 90 days, unless something changes. And then we just kind of let people, get back to us when they're ready to start looking at stuff. And if more than a few months go by, sometimes we'll pre-qualify people, say in March, they'll come back in September. That's when we might update some things, but otherwise the pre-qualifications are usually good for quite a while. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, perfect. And then maybe share a little bit about the types of properties that would qualify for this, or if there's any restrictions. You mentioned that this loan is eligible on and off of tribal land, but
Correct.
are there any specific requirements with the dwelling that you guys are looking for?
Okay. Yep. So we can do purchase of existing single family homes. We can do manufactured homes as long as they're a double wide or larger, that they come with the land and they're on a permanent foundation and built after 1976. But we do a lot of manufactured housing. We can do townhomes, we can do condos. One of the restrictions on condos is there's a government condo list that condos have to be on for us to finance. Certain places like Montana or South Dakota, where we're at, we'll find a lot of condos aren't on the list. So I usually tell people if they're looking at condos to let us know before they make an offer. We can also do duplex, triplex, or fourplex if someone's going to live in one of the units and they want to rent out the other unit, or 2 or 3 units. That's acceptable with this program as well. As far as tribal land versus non-tribal land, the whole state of Montana is open. I would say probably 80% of what we do day in and day out is for tribal members not living within reservation boundaries, say in Seattle or Los Angeles or wherever, Billings. So we can do anywhere off tribal land. And then for people that want to construct a home on their individual tribal land, if they have a lease or they own their tribal land, we can help with that as well.
Wonderful. And I'm going to throw you a curveball question. So I know you mentioned that sometimes you will recommend people go back to a local lender that provide a conventional loan or FHA. Maybe give an idea of when that would be, when a HUD 184 will be more beneficial and when it might be more to go with something else.
So the key points for a HUD 184, if you're off reservation land, say you're going to buy a house in Billings, our down payment requirement is 2.25%. Okay. To compare that, FHA, which is another popular first-time homebuyer program, is 3.5% down. So, my example would be on a $200,000 house, our down payment will be $4,500. FHA would be $7,000. Okay. Another thing is with our program, we technically don't have a minimum credit score. We do look at payment history, but we'll run into situations where we have a tribal member that say has a 580 FICO because they have medical collections that Indian Health Service was supposed to pay, and it's dragging their credit down, and it makes sense. Everything else is good. We can still get a loan done for someone with a low FICO in that scenario where other loans will just flat out say no. And then the other thing with the program is when you buy a house, if you don't have a large down payment of 20% or more, you're going to pay what's called PMI or mortgage insurance. We have it, but it's quite a bit less than most other programs. So our PMI, let's just use a $200,000 house. The monthly PMI would be like $40 a month, where with FHA it'd be $140 a month. So we're going to save them there as well. So to circle back to your question, if you're a tribal member and you don't have 20+% to put down, if you don't have the best credit score, typically HUD 184 is going to be the best route because it's going to save you in the down payment and it's going to save you in the overall monthly payment because of the lower mortgage insurance. Times when I tell people to look at other programs, if they're a veteran, the VA program is a great program. Rates have been great on VA loans as well. If they can get 0% down and no PMI, then I'll send them back to their local bank. Every once in a while, we'll run into someone that's like, I've got stellar credit scores. We want to put 20+% down. In that case, I'll tell them to just go back and do a conventional loan. And the reason for that is on any of these government loans, the government adds what's called a funding fee or a guarantee fee to the loan. And it's just an extra fee that they wouldn't have to pay if they have the 20% down, if that makes sense. But I always use this figure, and I've never put math to it, but I usually say, if I talk to 100 tribal members, usually 95 out of 100, this is probably going to be the best loan for the down payment and the PMI. But then there's those people, like I said, that have the big down payment, or they're a veteran or whatever, where it would be a better option to go the other way.
Sure, that makes sense. Well, no, I appreciate that. And anything else you can think of that might be beneficial for someone to know if they're looking into this program?
I would say some of the common questions or misconceptions we get are that, number one, that both tribal members or both borrowers do not need to be a tribal member if they're married. It's open statewide. It does not need to be on tribal land. Credit does matter. Just because the program doesn't have a minimum credit score doesn't mean that, we can't look at late payments or collections or things like that. I would also say to get people, people that maybe know where their credit's at, some things that we look at, if there's collections on the credit report, even if they're minor, like $10, HUD will require all those to be paid before we can start a loan. So I usually tell people, if they know they have stuff, to go to like freecreditreport.com or something and clean that up. Late payments, if they've had late payments on, say, a credit card, over 30 days is what we see on the credit report. Ideally, HUD doesn't want to see any late payments in the last 12 months. There's always exceptions to that. So if there's a unique situation, we'll run it up the ladder to an underwriter. We had one the other day where they had fraud on an Apple card. It was just last month, and we were able to move forward because we had documentation that made sense. The other thing too, I tell people, is don't be afraid to apply. It doesn't cost anything. We are going to look at every application that we get. We may not be able to get you, pre-qualified at this time if there's some issues, but I'd rather find out about issues now for someone that we can help them work through than to wait 6 months and then apply. So, like I said, we're more than happy to pull credit or answer any questions that people have as they come up. And as far as loan limits too, I was just thinking about that. Those increased in May. I believe we can go as high as, like, I want to say close to 400,000 in the Billings market now. It used to be capped at 271,000. So that was a nice increase, because I know a lot of these markets, housing's been going up quite a bit in the last few years.
And Nate, what's for anyone that wants to reach out to you, maybe get the process started, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Sure. So my direct phone line is 605-271-3531, and you can feel free to call me at that. I do get a lot of calls throughout the day, so leave me a message if you're not able to reach me, and I'll call you back. I'm very good with email. My email is Nate, N-A-T-E, Schmidt, SCHMIDT, at onetribal.com. It's the number one, and then TRIBAL.com. We have a website. Our branch has a website called HUD184loans.com. So HUD184LOANS.com. And that's got an inquiry tab where people can put in their basic information, and we'll get back to you. We also have some videos on our website, informational on trust land lending, construction, things like that, where my manager Jewel is on there and recorded, but people can look at those as well.
Wonderful. Well, thanks, Nate. I really appreciate your time today. And for anyone that's watching, I'm going to go ahead and include all of Nate's contact information in the description box, along with his website. And if you have any questions about this loan program or getting started with the home buying process, please feel free to leave a comment or reach out to either one of us, and we'd be happy to help. We'll see you next week.